All right, we are live. Silver Doctors live on air. It is Wednesday, the 15th day of the month of January. We're halfway through, and I'm excited to be with you guys this afternoon. I got my better half, Mr. Half Dollar. How are you doing, my friend?
Doing good today, Mike. Are we live? For some reason, I'm not showing it on my screen here. That's weird.
Let me see. It is saying live on my end. Let me confirm this on my end and make sure.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
let me see. It's look like it's loading. So I see. Yeah, so we are
okay.
live.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, we're good. For some reason, it wasn't starting on my end. That was weird.
Yeah, the technological disadvantages we are against. So with that being the case, let's get right into it. So with that being the case, let's check in with the chat, see if there's anybody tuning in there, and then we'll keep moving. So we have a couple people popping in. We got Low Blood Pressure, Old Hillbilly. We got Sean Tail, I believe Jason, Albert S. We got Chris. All right, so with that being the case, let's get right into it. Today's trade deal day. Are you excited or what?
I don't know if I'm excited. It's interesting because, CNN and MSNBC and Bloomberg and Fox are not really talking about it a whole lot, right? Because there's just not much to it. I mean, we only know a little bit here and there, and a lot of it's still going to be in secret. So it's like a whole lot of meh. So it's not really much of a deal at all. It's just, having a couple signings and a couple contracts, and the President Z's not even going to be there, right? It's going to be like the vice somebody or other. So that's interesting too.
Yeah, and that's interesting. So how does for such a historical landmark trade deal or agreement, whatever it is, packaged as, do we not have the President Xi and President Trump in the White House, front stage, shaking hands? If this is so monumental, but yeah, we'll see.
Exactly, we will see. But Mike, I woke up and first of all, I injured my knee yesterday, so I didn't sleep last night, so I was in pain. So I was probably aggravated a little bit when I woke up. So the first thing that I wanted to do today was check out, what's going on with the trade deal. And how do I do that? Well, you got to go to Trump's Twitter feed, right? And how do I like to go to Trump's Twitter feed? I like to use the Trump Twitter archive, right? Because then I can search terms and all that good stuff. So I typed in the word trade and I searched it to see what the last thing he said was about it. And the last thing he said about it that wasn't a retweet was yesterday. And I just sent you a link, and pull this thing up real quick because this is why I'm kind of irritated this morning. This is not good at all, and we'll get into this in a second. And this does have to do with economics, and I'll tell you why in a second. But here's a tweet from President Trump yesterday, and not just is it from yesterday, but he also retweeted it again this morning. So do we have a call or do we don't have a call?
No, we do not have a call. No, go ahead.
Okay. So I'm just going to read this tweet, and then we need to talk about this because this is very, very, very serious, and this is a very bad development. In fact, I'm sure we're going to lose more subscribers today, and the hate email is going to be coming in for the article I wrote this morning. But listen to this, right? We are helping Apple all the time on trade and so many other issues, and yet they refuse to unlock phones used by killers, drug dealers, and other violent criminal elements. They will have to step up to the plate and help our great country now. Make America great again. Yeah. So this is the tweet from this morning. Mike, there are so many problems with that, right? This is an open plea. This is a populist appeal for fascist totalitarianism in the United States. This is not good at all, right? Yeah. First of all, it's a flat out lie. Let me send you the second link right here. And I'm going to tell you why it matters for economics in the markets. Here's why it matters for economics in the markets. Because it's making it sound like Apple doesn't do anything, that they're respecting privacy, right? So there goes a guerrilla marketing campaign for you where Apple can say, hey, buy the iPhone, we respect your privacy. We don't hand over your data. But this is a flat out lie, right? For years now, Apple publishes on their website what they call transparency reports. So I just sent you this link. I don't know if you have it up on the screen or not, right? Okay, scroll down to table 6, right? So when Apple publishes these transparency reports, this is for the first half of 2019, so January through June. What they do is basically say who they're releasing their data to and why they're releasing the data, okay? So just one little type of way they release data is what they call worldwide government emergency requests, right? So the government says, hey, this is an emergency. We need you to give us this information from these iPhones. So if you look at table 6, and I want to talk about this, right, because there's several points to make here. If you look at Table 6, in just the first 6 months of 2019, the United States made 243 emergency requests to Apple for information, and they complied 90% of the time, granting 220 emergency requests. Now, they thousands and thousands and thousands give up data for subpoenas and FISA and warrants, search warrants, and all this and all that, right? But these are just emergency requests. That's the problem I have with it, because everything is under the guise of national security, right? Oh, it's national security. You got to give us this information right now. We're taking out the sleeper terrorists in this and that. That's not what this is about. I don't know why it's about, and I'm going to ask you in a second, because I think it might have to do with the cashless society. Yeah. But getting back to my main point, right? Apple releases thousands and thousands of these requests all the time on an emergency basis. So for President Trump to say that they refuse to do it, that is just a bold-faced lie. In fact, they've done it thousands of times since 2014, as far as they go back. So I guess the question is why? Why are they doing all this right now? This push for more government control of our data through cell phones. So the question I have for you is, does this have to do with, just part of that preparation to move us towards that cashless society, Mike, that digital cashless society?
That's a good point. I think so. And so before I actually answer that question fully, we do have a caller. So let's see what this, let's see if we can get this call on. All right. So hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
There's low blood pressure, Corpus Christi. How you guys doing today?
Doing good, my friend. How you doing? What's on your mind this afternoon?
Good. I want to talk about this trade, non-trade. This is a charade. This is what this is. I don't understand. Okay, we have this trade deal going on for 2 years. I've never been to a car lot or gone to the grocery store and waited 2 years to buy something. But anyways, I don't understand. First, it was a trade deal. Now there's something called phases, and later on they're gonna just make up names. They're just stringing it along. When is something gonna get done? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, good point. And I'm assuming by them signing some names on a piece of paper that hasn't been read by anybody apart from the Chinese officials, and I guess hopefully the White House read it. Hopefully so. But other than that, we're going to find out in phases. And so I'm looking at it as a great geopolitical distraction. That's what I'm calling it now, because once again, it's all a cover up for what's going on under the surface. And by President Trump or Steve Mnuchin or whoever's going to sign that documentation, they're basically probably turning over more rights that the U.S. is willing to give up in order to play ball with China in the future, and the future they have in store for the world. So that's kind of my 2 cents on it.
Yeah. Also, Mike, I wanted to know what do you guys think the connection between the trade deal and the stock market? To me, it doesn't make any sense, because the stock market is all a bubble. They're borrowing money to buy up their own stocks. What does China have to do with it? Printing money and buying their own stocks? I just don't understand the whole connection thing. I don't think there's even a connection there.
Yeah.
All right. I'll let you guys go.
Appreciate you. We'll touch on that. Thanks, my friend.
Okay.
Mr. Havdahl, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, not just much to add, because I think you and he both explained it very well. Just the other thing that I would like to add is some of these parts are going to remain in secret. So we're not even going to get to see the whole thing. That's one. So we don't even really know what's in it. I asked the other day, is there a dollar devaluation coming? And if it's remaining secret, we don't know if they're going to incrementally devalue the dollar against the yuan or what, right? Because they're not going to tell us. That's point number one. And point number two is I've also heard rumors, and I can't remember where I saw this, but that there could be 2 different versions of this. And what we get in English is one version, and what they get in Mandarin is the different version. And it's tailored to each specific country to make each country look like they're actually winning out in this. So, yeah, this is just a whole mess one way or another. And, sure enough, yesterday, today markets are hitting all-time highs again. So, this is and it's going to be underwhelming, right? And if it's phase one, well, if the government always tells us the opposite, this means it's the last phase and it's the last thing we get. And it's not even really going to be that good, right? If we go by when the government titles a law, it's the opposite, right? If this is phase one, this means it's the final phase, right? Yeah. So
I like the last part B of what you described, as far as, them getting the contract, we getting the contract, we're both going to sign it. They're saying something different. And of course, what makes that more realistic to me is the fact that they have a 10-year, 20-year, 30-year written out agreement that they meet upon. So I remember like prior years, I forgot what plan it was, whether the 10-year agreement, whatever it was that they had a meeting about, and we got a little bit of coverage over here. That 10-year plan, I would assume they're not going to go against that in any form or fashion to appease Trump, a deal, or the U.S., or anything of that nature. So whatever their version of the contract of phase 1 is, it will be in alignment with what their 10-year plan is. And then on our end, we know our 10-year plan is deficits, national debt, and everything in between there. So ours is going to still continue that on. Now, what's caught in the middle, as you mentioned earlier, the dollar devaluation. And it's my personal opinion that between those two different agreements, the dollar's in the middle. It will not be the same dollar next year, the year after that, or 5 years or 10 years from now. However it's adjusted or reissued or redenominated or whatever, I think that's the underline of all this stuff. It's the world no longer wanting to continue to rely upon the dollar. That's my personal opinion. So
yeah, those are great points you make. And remember, like, I'm assuming this is going to be like the USMCA, right? With the USMCA, the US-Mexico-Canada agreement, right? There was the signing, right? But the signing doesn't mean it's finalized. It's still got to go through the House, and then it's also got to go through the Senate, because that's where the USMCA is right now. The USMCA right now is it's in the Senate, and they haven't even voted on it. All it's done is gone out of finance committee, I think. So, and then just one more point before moving on from this whole Apple and this invasion of privacy thing. If you look at that table 6, we made 243 emergency requests, right? In the name of national security, probably. Guess how many requests China made?
Let me see on the list. China mainland, 1.
1. Communist China made 1 request.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? So this is not good, Mike. This is not a good development. This is like FEMA Camp USA stuff. That's what we're talking about here. This is like, because it goes along the same thing about the wall's not meant to keep people out. It's meant to keep people in and seal the United States off as a prison. I don't really want to go down that rabbit hole today, but that's the last thing President Trump said about trade. So I kind of had to. Yeah. Since today is such a big deal with the signing. So I'm ready to move on from that anyway. But.
All right, so watch this. As we're moving on, let's check in the chat and see if there's any thoughts, or as always, highlight at Silver Doctors, and I see a few things here. Let me see here. We got Mike's mic is a little quiet. Oh, so my mic, so I'm up here. We're talking. It looks like my mic is quiet again, so let me bring it up to my face. So I appreciate that feedback. And so let me see here. It says, I can't hear the caller. It says, Mike, you're so full of good stuff. First is the bombing of the worst threat to U.S. from Iran was a mistake, especially coming from a prior service. Did you ever see anything about above the waist? I'm not sure what that means. I don't know what that means. That's not a cool. I don't know. Gun fan, not sure. I'm not sure what that's talking about. It says if you put as much effort into researching as you do to pulling out of your butt, you might.
I'm telling you, Mike. Like, remember when I was talking about how this country is so divided? Mike, the country is just so divided right now. I have never seen the United States more divided, right? And me and you've been around, right? We're in our mid-40s. We've been around, and we've seen things, and we know things, and we experience what real life, street level in America is like, and it's really, really, really divided right now, Mike.
Yeah, and so it's one of the things where, apart from I'm just one person sharing an opinion based upon the information I gather from my limited base of knowledge, and I just happen to have a platform where I can share it and get your take as well. So, I appreciate the support, Gun fan. Because if somebody sees that tweet, right, they're going to think, that this is a good thing, that we're, because it's all in the name of national security. But really, if you look behind the scenes a little bit, because I know that this has been going on for years. So that's what frustrated me about it. Because it originally went back to the San Bernardino shooting, and I don't want to go down that rabbit hole because I went down a little bit. You remember that San Bernardino shooting in 2016 in that mental health clinic? Yeah. That's when this kind of whole, like, Apple's not releasing stuff started, and that's when I learned that they actually do this hundreds of times a year on an emergency basis. So, I mean, this has been going on for years. This is nothing new, and it's just totally not right to say that they don't release information. Yeah, I would agree. All right,
so
keep moving. Go ahead.
Yep, keep on moving. So one of my favorite topics is inflation, and this one is kind of indirectly related to it, but it's just bad news all the way around. This is from Zero Hedge this morning, and the title is "Half of all U.S. restaurants are struggling with rising labor costs." Half 50% of all restaurants. So, that tells me one of two things, right? Either employees are going to start getting fired because restaurants can't, well, says several things, right? Either employees are going to get fired because restaurants can't afford the wages. The restaurants are simply going to close down because they can't afford the aggregate total of wages, or prices are going up, right? So it's going to be a combination of all these things. And you know, a lot of it has to do with mandatory minimum wage and things like that. My very first job was when I was 14, washing dishes in a hotel, and you know, that probably would be like not even allowed to do anymore in 2020. Like, you probably have to be 18 years old, and who knows what else you probably got to do. I mean, I was sticking my hands in stuff that would melt the skin off, and I didn't know any better. I was washing dishes and degreaser and stuff, but that's not good. Thoughts on any of that, Mike?
Yeah. So as always, I mean, it's that part of not only is the trade deal being painted as something that's going to be good for employment. So I actually watched Steve Mnuchin yesterday being interviewed, and he was trying to give a little bit of insight into it, but saying the same thing, saying that there's 4 sectors primarily that's mentioned in that trade deal, of which agriculture, he hit it on farming, and how there's going to be, I think, $200 billion worth of trade done amongst China and the U.S. of them buying products from us, and that should be great for the economy. It's going to be great for jobs. And so the guy, I forgot who was interviewing, they asked, what about the deficit? Do you see this helping the deficit in the long run? And he said, yes, you know, the $200 billion should definitely help minimize the deficit in a couple of years. I'm thinking like, well, we're running $1 trillion plus right now faithfully, so $200 billion, you know, that's only, you know, maybe a quarter, if that, of what we're told the deficit is. So I'm thinking like, how is this trade deal really going to be beneficial in the long run if he's saying that $200 billion in a couple years? So that lets me know that there's a lot more to the story than we're being told. So there'll be nothing significantly changing in the mainstream economy when it comes to employment, as well as all the issues we just talked here about the labor force and whatnot. Because once again, this deal is not meant to really hit home on Main Street, in my personal opinion. So I don't see any more good news or just more bad news in regards to labor and jobs and everything else. So that's unfortunate, but that's what I believe is already underway. It's been underway for quite some time now.
Yeah, it's just the continual slow decline. You know, that's what we're talking about here. It's just a continuation of this rolling type of collapse that we seem to be having, because, you know, they're for some reason not letting it crash. I think they will crash it on purpose sooner or later, but for now they're keeping everything propped up as far as in the financial markets go. Yeah,
I do agree.
And when we can see stuff struggling all around us, and here's another example of that. And you know, coming up on the next little topic here is, it's not just in the United States, but this is global. This one also is pretty shocking. So this is also, you know, when I do my scan in the morning of the news, here's also something that just sticks out. Germany to cut 400,000 auto worker jobs in the next decade. 400,000.
Yeah. And now this is...
I know you got something to say about that, Mike.
Yeah, so that's one of the things where I feel like if I keep talking about the shift in employment and the lack of need for human labor moving forward, I'm just going to just become more repetitive and saying the same thing over and over again. So I would imagine people should be able to see by now that the shift is underway and something needs to change. If not, they're going to change it for you. So I'm going to leave it at that. Like the title speaks for itself to me.
Okay, well, let's talk about something fun and happy, since this has started off kind of gloomy here. You want to do that? Let's switch. Okay, let's switch gears here for a minute. I want you to pull this up. This is something that's really cool. This is a 2020 Year of the Mouse proof platinum coin, right? This is... They're doing like really interesting stuff over there at SD Bullion, because this is like exclusive to SD Bullion, and they are they're partnering with like all these mints around the world now. Like they got like some sort of partnership going on with the Perth Mint, so they're the only ones, and there's only 188 of these made. Yeah. Here's why I bring this up, right? Yesterday I had an interview with Simon Popple, and we were talking about, you know, the gold and silver and the mining sector. And, you know, some of the things we were talking about was investing, and some of the things we were talking about was speculation. And some of the things we were talking about is, you know, you have a foundation, right, of like your major miners, as like that can be something that's more stable and more reliable. And then you look at your explorers as like speculation, and your juniors as like speculation. And it got me thinking last night, you know, Because is there a way that by stacking you can kind of encompass both of those things, right? So I'm talking about, is there a way that you can have a nice solid foundation, but also go off into a few things that are more speculative in nature? And then I saw this little coin right here, and it got to me thinking that could kind of be one of those like junior miners or explorers or something like that. Because if you think about it, platinum just broke through $1,000 today, right? And traditionally, platinum is platinum is 10 times more rare than gold. And platinum is, traditionally more expensive than gold, right? So just a couple of points that come to mind, and then I want to get your thoughts on this. If this could be considered like a speculation, that might be an interesting play because you got your foundation, right? Like your 90%, which I like, and you got your silver eagles and maples and stuff like that. Because I do this myself, right? The more that I think about it, I have speculated by purchasing, some of the Year of the Dogs, right, from the Perth Mint. So my point here is this is something interesting that has a chance to appreciate in the price of platinum. It has a chance to appreciate in the premium. And remember, we talk about like all this fine art and stuff like that goes. Once money starts moving into precious metals, my goodness, stuff like this is the stuff that's going to get scooped up here. So the point into all this is stacking can be fun, right? There's no reason that stacking should be boring, right? You should have your bases covered, right? With your bait, it's about getting your weight up, in my opinion. Yeah. Once you get your weight up to a comfortable level, if you feel that you could speculate one way or another in a premium appreciation, such as something like this platinum coin, well, if you got deeper pockets, that's something you can do. Any thoughts on that, or do you have any stacking tips that you want to share?
Stacking tips, I have nothing in particular outside of, as you mentioned, about the importance of getting your weight up, because ultimately that's what it boils down to, being heavy as you can as this monetary storm blows through, so that you're hopefully financially better off then than now, as the reshuffling of the deck happens with this whole global shift and the shifting of power. So other than that, as far as actually what do you prefer, platinum, gold, silver, whatever, I personally stick to what I personally know myself, which happens to be gold and silver. Anything on top of that, that's more so according to your liking. So that's kind of just me. I keep it simple. I like different varieties, of course, but yet I just keep it real simple on my end.
Yeah. And certainly the point of this is that each person has to have their own kind of plan. Yeah. And there's no reason it's boring, right? There's no reason that all a person should buy is generic Sunshine Mint rounds. You know what I mean? So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there so we can move on, because it got me thinking, is there a way that you can get into like that? People should watch that interview, right, that I had yesterday, because we talk about how to navigate the mining sector. We talk about what to look for in companies. We talk about what companies are more risky than others. So I just wanted to tie that in with the metals on a physical level, because I think that there is those possibilities too. Yeah, So moving on to the next topic here real quick. And this is just all over the place. Did you hear that? Like, if you go to CNN's homepage, and I didn't send you the link just because it's right on their homepage, but the main thing on CNN's homepage right now says the entire Russian government is resigning. The entire government of Russia. Yeah. And we talk about, well, it's 4D chess and you got to do all this and all that before you can drain the swamp. Well, the entire Russian government is resigning.
So what does that mean? Like, so I saw that as well. So what does that mean? Like, it was
to me it means it's just a charade and we're all being duped, because we can drain the swamp if we want to, right? Yeah. There's no reason that you can't drain the swamp. That's it's just something that caught my attention today.
Yeah. So let's check with the chat real quick. So I saw someone mention about, can Mike speak sign language? Assuming my mic, but yet on my side, once again, the bars are moving, so I'll switch to a different mic. Hopefully that works. But other than that, it's one of them things where, not planned for, but it happens. So I'll do the best I can. And we'll keep moving right along. And as always, looking to get better. I can hear you better now. Okay, so I'll switch to a different mic, but this mic right here, obviously, is right in my mouth, right in my face. But anyway, let's keep moving. So go ahead to the next subject matter.
Okay, last topic I got for us today, then we'll wrap it up so that everybody can watch the signing ceremony on the White House channel on YouTube. We'll provide a link into that afterwards. That's at 11:30, so we're all going to watch that, right?
I'm excited.
But this is just the last topic here for the last couple minutes. Target shares plunge after holiday sales miss forecast.
Yeah.
Right? So Target missing forecast. Target is like, your lower end type of place to shop, right? You're not buying Gucci bags bags and Louis Vuitton and stuff like that in Target, right? This is more lower end stuff type of a store. And what is that telling us if their holiday sales were bad?
The things are not as good as they want us to believe it is.
Yeah, and it goes to my thoughts that those online sales are more a reflection of collection of taxes in the aggregate than anything else. Yeah. So, you keep asking everybody, and I think it's great because every interview you do, I hear you say, are we in a recession now or is one coming? Because people, they're like starting to they don't really want to admit that we are, but all of the evidence around us is just overwhelming in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree. So while we're talking, we do have a caller. Let's see if we can get him online, see if we can get him on. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Queens, New York. What's your name, my friend?
My name is Charlie.
Charlie, what's on your mind?
And I'm a retired New York City teacher. And I had my money put in over the last 20 years in my teacher's deferred annuity account. Quite sizable.
Mm-hmm.
About a year ago, I called up a Noble Gold, and I spoke with the associates there, and they persuaded me. I wanted to get my money out of the annuities.
Mm-hmm.
So I opened up an IRA, gold and silver IRA, and I just wanted to get your opinion and my opinion on. So far, it's been doing well. It's holding its own. And I just wanted to get your opinion on the move that I made.
All right, sounds good. Is there anything else you want to mention, or we can answer that off the phone so you'll be able to hear Paul as well?
No, I'll watch you online.
All right, thanks for calling in, my friend. Thanks for sharing that.
You got it.
Mr. Half Dollar, any thoughts directly on the move from annuity to?
I do have thoughts on it, and because that's why I brought up the whole stacking question 15 minutes ago, because here's my point, right? I did not make a single trade last year in the stock market, and I'm very proud of that. And I'm not going to, because I have come to the feeling that these are rigged markets. And, if anybody's in the financial markets, that's fine. I'm not going to judge them. I think people are free to do what they want, right? That said, I'm not going to participate in it because I'm enabling this rigged casino, right? So I know I'm gambling in a rigged casino. So yes, to me, that sounds great because I don't have $1 in the stock market. I don't have $1 in a 401k. I don't have $1 in a pension program because I don't trust the financial system. I do not trust it. So I don't, I'm not, and I'm a, if you don't hold it, you don't own it kind of guy, right? So I do not know how the gold IRAs work. I'm not an expert on that at all. I just know that they're there. But I will say this, right? If it's because you can also take physical, I understand, and it can be considered in your IRA as long as it's not stored in your house or something. But my point there is, yeah, I'm all for moving from the financial paper assets that we know eventually are going to get hyperinflated away, as all fiat currencies do, and moving into the tangible, real types of assets such as gold and silver. That's what I would say about that. What would you say, Mike?
I do agree with that move. Me personally, so once again, this is all our opinions. This is not financial advice, and so we're not certified to give any advice, just our opinions and our thoughts. So I am that. To me, that sounds like you have now taken more of the responsibility upon yourself to do something and be proactive with your financial future. And I think regardless of what happened, you'll feel more comfortable knowing that you had your hands in on it, as opposed to having someone automatically do it for you or some algorithms working directly on your behalf. And so the more physical you become, the more empowered you are to just get back to what I believe investing should be, where it's in something tangible that you can have hands on. As you mentioned, if you don't own it, if you can't hold it, you don't own it. And on top of that, to me personally, unless you know what you're doing in these markets and you're actively hands-on, educating yourself and moving your own funds around, I personally look at it as you're gambling. And so you're putting it out there, hoping it they're shuffling it for you. You're hoping it grows and that you can get on, take it out 10, 20 years from now. I don't think that model is still relevant. So I think after the great financial crisis, the game changed, but unfortunately the advice didn't change. So I think, that right there sounds a lot better than just putting it out there and let people, handle your affairs for you and you carry all the risk. So that's, I think it's a good move. In my opinion.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, and Ryan James, I don't know if he was talking about what I had said or not, but that's exactly right. He says starve the beast. So that's what I'm trying to do by not participating because, I understand the mining sector and the fact that, they are going to move here, right? But I'm thinking, well, how can a person get in on that if they're not interested in actually putting their money into the stock market itself? So because that's the feeling that I take is starve the beast. By me not putting my money into the stock market, I'm not enabling the rigged casino to keep going on. Yeah. The problem is that, if one person does it, well, that one person misses out, right? If everybody does it, then the casino collapses, right? So not everybody's going to do it because the allure of money is too strong of an allure.
Yeah, and I've heard people, even on my other channel, about if you're not participating in the stock market rally, you're a fool. You're giving people bad advice. I'm like, okay, well, it's one of them things. Once again, it's for me personally. It's not about I won't be as mad or disappointed if I miss out on all these gains between now and the time the stock market's correct. Of course, it'll hurt. I could do a lot more if I was actively involved and whatnot. But thinking long term, thinking just in the future, I'm more so concerned with just the preservation of the little bit of crumbs I do have, knowing that at the end of this, it's going to be the national currencies are going to be weaponized to where anything that has monetary properties, anything that retains value, will do extremely well because currencies are going to be so bad. So it's one of the things where, am I really missing out? Knowing that unless you know when to get out, you're more than likely you're going to lose pretty much everything that you put in there because it is a casino, in my opinion, that's rigged against you. So yeah, the people who are already positioned well for this next monetary system have already gotten out of the system. So I've talked about CEOs, CFOs selling their shares already. So who's buying those things? Who's propping it up? Happens to be the uninformed and all the buybacks and things of that nature that's pumping that economy up. So it will correct. Hopefully you're out in time. So that's just my 2 cents there.
Sounds good. Well said. I think that sounds good. So, I'm about ready to wrap it up here, Mike, if you want to wrap it up or address anything else.
Sounds good to me. So with that being the case, we will dial back and come back again this Friday with more news, and we'll hopefully have a better understanding as to what this phase 1 is about. Hopefully there'll be something printed, and I wouldn't mind getting a copy of the Mandarin and see if we can get it, have a Google translation of it or something to see if the words line up, which I would imagine they probably won't, but with that being the case, it's been great hanging out. I'll see you guys Friday. Apologize for all the audio, whatever it is. I know there's a little bit of delay between me and you, but you still can hear us hopefully pretty well. So that being the case, if you've enjoyed it back and forth, don't be afraid to donate a thumbs up beneath this video, and we'll see you guys on Friday. Enjoy your day.